Welcome back to HOA Anger. I thought it would be a warning. It was a campaign. I am standing in my side yard in Quebec City on a Tuesday morning when Amy Reed plants herself 3 feet from my survey stake and starts screaming. This conversation is not a debate, it is a directive. Remove that stake by end of day, or you are looking at a $500 fine and a formal violation hearing. I stare at her, then at the little orange-capped metal rod sticking 6 inches out of the dirt, then back at her. The stake has been there for 2 days. A licensed surveyor hammered it in as part of the boundary confirmation I paid for before I start my fence repair. Amy does not care. She is holding a bundle of zip ties in one hand, like she is about to strap me to a post, and her black bucket hat is pulled so low I can barely see her eyes. Her white light jacket has mud on the cuffs. She has been out here inspecting my yard without permission. I moved to this neighborhood 8 months ago because the rent was cheaper than downtown, and I could still make my shift schedule work at the car rental lot where I manage vehicle turnovers. My job does not forgive missed shifts. If I am late, someone else covers, and I lose hours. If I lose too many hours, I lose the job. So when the HOA, the Copper Canyon Estates Association, started sending letters about my fence sagging and needing replacement, I bit the bullet and hired a contractor. I pulled permits. I ordered a survey to confirm my property line because the old fence sits right on the edge and I do not want to build 6 inches onto my neighbor's side by accident. Everything by the book. I thought that would keep me safe. I was wrong. Amy is the treasurer of the Copper Canyon Estates Association, and she has decided that my survey stake is trespassing because it sits 2 feet inside what she claims is a shared easement. She has no documentation. She has no engineer report. She just has her voice, her clipboard, and a reputation for making people disappear from neighborhood events if they cross her. The HOA operates on public shaming and theatrics at meetings. Amy stands at the lectern with a handheld label maker and tags materials as violations during the open comment period. She prints little strips that say things like unapproved paint color or prohibited structure and tapes them to photos she projects on the screen. No one argues with her because no one wants to be next. I take a breath. I try to keep my tone calm. Amy, the surveyor is licensed. The stake is temporary. It will be gone as soon as the fence posts go in. That is in 4 days. She cuts me off. 4 days is 4 days of non-compliance. You do not get to decide when HOA property is occupied without board approval. I feel my chest tighten. HOA property. The words do not make sense. This is my side yard. The survey confirmed the lot line. I own this dirt. But Amy has already turned and started walking toward the street, pulling her phone out. She stops at the curb and makes a call. I cannot hear what she is saying, but I see her gesture back at my yard twice. 10 minutes later, a truck pulls up. It is my contractor Dan, arriving early to drop off materials. He sees Amy still standing on the curb and waves. She does not wave back. Instead, she walks directly into the middle of my driveway and blocks him. Dan stops the truck and rolls down his window. Amy leans in, and I hear her say something about unauthorized vehicles and violations. Dan looks past her at me, confused. I jog over. What is going on, I ask. Amy does not look at me. She keeps her eyes on Dan. Your vehicles are not approved for extended staging on this property. If you return tomorrow, you will be cited and potentially towed. Dan laughs. He thinks she is joking. She is not joking. She pulls a folded paper from her jacket pocket and hands it to him. It is a printed email, no signatures, just text, claiming that the HOA has the authority to enforce parking restrictions on private driveways if the work impacts shared infrastructure. Dan reads it, frowns, and hands it back. Lady, I do not know what shared infrastructure you are talking about. I am replacing a fence. This is his driveway. Amy turns to me. The fence borders the easement. Any work that affects drainage, sightlines, or utility access requires a 10-day notice and a board hearing. You filed no notice. Therefore, any contractor presence is unauthorized. I feel my hands start to shake. I have a permit inspection scheduled for this afternoon. The city inspector is coming at 3 to check the post hole spacing and confirm the setback measurements. If I miss that inspection, the permit gets delayed and I pay for another site visit. That is $200 I do not have to waste, plus the cost of rebooking Dan. Plus the risk that my insurance company flags the delay and jacks my rates because the fence is currently a liability. I step between Amy and Dan. I am not canceling my inspection. The survey is legal. The permit is valid. If you want to challenge that, you need to file a formal complaint with the city, not threaten my contractor in my driveway. Amy smiles. It is the kind of smile that makes my stomach drop. I can put you on the agenda and keep you there. She taps her label maker against her palm. Then she walks back to her car, gets in, and drives away. Dan watches her go. He looks at me. Man, is she serious? I nod. Yeah. She is serious. The inspection happens at 3. The city inspector, a guy named Mark with a clipboard and a yellow vest, walks the fence line, measures the setback with a tape, checks the survey stake, and signs off. He does not care about Amy or the HOA. He cares that my contractor followed code. The fence will sit 18 inches inside my property line, which is legal. The posts will not block any utility easements. Everything is fine. Mark hands me the signed permit sheet and tells me I am good to go. I feel a tiny flicker of relief. Maybe this is over. It is not over. That night, I get an email from the Copper Canyon Estates Association. The subject line is Notice of Violation and Compliance Hearing. The email is 3 paragraphs of dense text claiming that I failed to provide advance notice of major exterior work, that my survey stake constitutes unauthorized ground disturbance in a restricted easement, and that my contractor vehicles have been observed in violation of overnight parking restrictions. None of this is true. My contractor never parked overnight. The survey stake is on my property. I filed my fence permit with the city 2 months ago and sent a courtesy copy to the HOA office, which I have the sent timestamp for. But the email does not care about facts. It tells me I have 7 days to respond in writing or face a $500 fine and a formal hearing in front of the board. I sit at my kitchen table and read the email 4 times. My hands are still shaking. I open my filing cabinet and pull out every piece of paper I have: the survey report, the permit application, the city approval, the contractor invoice, the email I sent to the HOA in April with the subject line fence repair notice and permit copy attached. I have everything. I take photos of all of it with my phone. Then I reply to the HOA email with a short, polite message. I attach the permit, the survey, and my original notice email. I write, I have provided all required documentation. The work is permitted and compliant. Please confirm receipt and cancel the violation notice. The reply comes 6 hours later. It is from Amy. The message is 2 sentences. Your documentation does not address the easement disturbance or the contractor vehicle violation. The hearing is scheduled for June 15th at 7 p.m. Attendance is mandatory. If you are enjoying this HOA nightmare, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories where the rules get turned inside out. I call my buddy Jeff, who lives 4 houses down and serves on the HOA board as the guy who actually reads the bylaws. Jeff has been quietly fed up with Amy for 2 years. He answers on the second ring. I tell him what is happening. He groans. Man, she is doing it again. Doing what? I ask. He explains. Amy has a pattern. She targets anyone who does visible work on their property, files vague violations, and uses the hearing process to intimidate people into paying fines or abandoning projects. Most people do not fight it because the hearings are public, and Amy turns them into spectacles. She brings printed photos, uses her label maker to tag evidence, and reads prepared statements that make you sound like a criminal. The board usually backs her because no one wants to deal with her tantrums. But Jeff has been keeping notes. He has a folder of internal emails where Amy discusses selective enforcement and refers to certain homeowners as problem cases. He has not been able to use it yet because he is outvoted 3-1 on the board. But he tells me he will help if I need a witness. I thank him and hang up. I stare at my phone. I have a week until the hearing. I need more than Jeff's notes. I need something that will shut Amy down completely. I start digging. I file a public records request with the HOA management company for all violation notices issued in the past 2 years, all hearing minutes, and all financial records related to compliance fees. The request costs me $50, and the company tells me it will take up to 30 days to process. I do not have 30 days. But I file it anyway because I need the paper trail. The next morning, Dan shows up with his crew to start the fence work. They unload posts, bags of concrete mix, and a post hole digger. Amy is already there. She is standing on the sidewalk with her phone out, filming. Dan ignores her. He marks the post locations with spray paint and starts digging the first hole. Amy walks onto my lawn. "Excuse me," she says loudly. "This work is under dispute. You are required to stop until the hearing." Dan does not stop digging. He looks at me. I nod. Keep going. Amy pulls out her phone and makes another call. I hear her say something about code enforcement and unauthorized construction. My stomach twists. If she convinces the city to issue a stop work order, I am done. The permit will be flagged, the inspection will be voided, and I will be back to square one. 20 minutes later, a city truck pulls up. It is not Mark. It is someone from the code enforcement office. A woman in a gray shirt with a badge on her belt gets out and walks over. Amy intercepts her immediately and starts talking fast, gesturing at the holes at the survey stake, at me. The enforcement officer listens, nods, and then walks over to me. She asks to see my permit. I pull it out of my truck and hand it to her. She scans it, looks at the survey stake, and walks the fence line. She measures the setback herself. Then she comes back and hands me the permit. You are fine. This is permitted work. No easement violation. She looks at Amy. Ma'am, if you have a dispute about property boundaries, that is a civil matter. This is not a code issue. Amy's face goes red. But the HOA has jurisdiction over easements. The officer shakes her head. Not according to the city. If the permit is valid, the work proceeds. She gets back in her truck and leaves. Amy stands on the sidewalk for another 10 minutes, filming. Then she gets in her car and drives away. Dan finishes the first post hole and starts the second. I feel a small, fragile sense of victory. But I know this is not over. Amy does not lose. She escalates. That night, I get another email. This one is from the HOA management company. It is a formal records denial. My public records request has been partially denied due to privacy concerns and ongoing compliance matters. The email says I can receive a redacted copy of the hearing minutes for an additional $200 processing fee, and I will need to wait 30 days. I stare at the screen. This is retaliatory. They are stonewalling me because Amy told them to. I forward the email to Jeff. He replies within minutes. That is not legal. File a complaint with the state. I do not know how to file a state complaint. I Google it. I find a form on the State Real Estate Commission website for HOA transparency violations. I fill it out. I attach the denial email. I submit it. The confirmation page says processing can take 60 to 90 days. I do not have 60 days. The fence work continues. Dan and his crew finish the post holes, pour the concrete, and let it cure overnight. The next day, they start mounting the rails. Amy drives by twice. The second time, she stops and takes more photos. I ignore her. I have bigger problems. My car rental lot schedule just shifted, and I am now on call for a weekend turnaround, which means if I miss the HOA hearing on the 15th, I will have no defense and the fine will go automatic. I cannot afford $500. I also cannot afford to lose weekend hours. I email my manager and beg for coverage. He says he will try, but no promises. On June 12th, 3 days before the hearing, I come home from work and find a tow truck in my driveway. The driver is hooking up Dan's work truck. I run out of my car. "What are you doing?" The driver, a big guy in a stained hoodie, holds up a clipboard. "Got a call from the property management company. Unauthorized vehicle, violation of HOA parking code." I look at the truck. It is parked legally in my driveway. It has been here since this morning because Dan is working late to finish the rails. I pull out my phone and call Dan. He does not pick up. I call the tow company number on the truck. A woman answers. I explain the situation. She says the work order came from the HOA and they have authority to tow from private driveways if the board has declared a violation. I ask for proof. She says the driver has an email authorization. I ask to see it. The driver shows me his phone. It is an email from Amy, sent from her personal address, with the subject line "Immediate Tow Authorization." The email claims Dan's truck has been parked in violation of overnight restrictions for 3 consecutive nights. That is a lie. Dan's truck is only here during work hours. I take a photo of the email on the driver's phone. Then I call Jeff. He answers. I explain what is happening. He tells me to offer to pay the driver to unhook the truck and leave, then file a complaint with the tow company and the management company. I do not want to pay, but I also do not want Dan's truck impounded. I offer the driver $40 cash to unhook and go. He thinks about it. Then he shakes his head. "Lady already paid me. If I leave without the truck, I do not get the rest." I feel my chest go tight. "How much did she pay you?" He shrugs. $200 up front, $200 on completion. I stare at him. Amy paid $400 out of her own pocket to tow Dan's truck as intimidation. I pull out my phone and call the police non-emergency line. I explain that someone is attempting to tow a legally parked vehicle from my private driveway without my consent. The dispatcher says an officer will come by. The tow driver hears this and stops cranking the hoist. He looks at me. If the cops say it is illegal, I am not taking it. We wait. Amy is still standing by her car at the end of the driveway, watching. She has her phone out, filming again. The officer arrives 15 minutes later. He is young, tired-looking, and clearly annoyed to be here. He asks what is going on. I explain. The tow driver shows him the email from Amy. The officer reads it, looks at my driveway, and asks if I gave permission for the tow. I say no. He asks the driver if he has a signed authorization from the property owner. The driver says no, just the email from the HOA. The officer shakes his head. This is a private driveway. The HOA does not have authority to authorize a tow without the owner's consent unless there is a specific recorded covenant that grants them that power. Do you have documentation of that covenant? The driver looks at me. I shake my head. The officer tells the driver to unhook the truck and leave. The driver hesitates, then complies. He unlatches the hoist, lowers the truck, and drives away. Amy gets in her car and leaves without a word. The officer hands me a case number and tells me to file a report if I want to pursue harassment charges. I thank him, and he leaves. I sit on my porch steps and try to breathe. My hands are still shaking. Dan calls me back 10 minutes later. I tell him what happened. He is furious. He says he is going to file a complaint with his insurance company and CC the HOA management company. I tell him to go ahead. That night, I get a third email from the HOA. This one is short. Due to continued non-compliance and interference with association enforcement actions, your violation fine has been increased to $1,000. Payment is due within 14 days, or a lien will be filed against your property. I read it twice. A lien. If they file a lien, my home insurance will spike and my mortgage company will get involved. I forward the email to Jeff. He calls me immediately. This is insane. They cannot just increase a fine without a hearing. That is not in the bylaws. I ask him what I can do. He tells me to show up at the hearing, bring every piece of evidence I have, and be ready to fight. He says he will be there as my witness. He also tells me something else. He has been digging through Amy's records. She has not paid her own HOA dues in 6 months. She is in arrears by almost $2,000. The board does not know because she is the treasurer and she handles the payment processing. Jeff found out by accident when he was reviewing a budget report and noticed a discrepancy. I ask him if he has proof. He says he has a copy of the payment ledger and a bank statement that shows the shortfall. He has been holding on to it because he was not sure how to bring it up without accusing her directly. But now, with everything she is doing to me, he is ready to use it. I tell him to bring it to the hearing. He agrees. The hearing is on June 15th at 7 p.m. in the community clubhouse. I arrive at 6:45 with a folder full of documents. The permit, the survey, the city inspection sign-off, the email I sent in April, the police case number from the tow incident, the retaliatory records denial, and a printed timeline I made that shows every interaction with Amy, every email, every threat. I also bring my phone with photos and timestamps. Jeff is already there. He is sitting in the back row with his own folder. He nods at me. The room fills up. About 20 neighbors show up, most of them looking bored or annoyed. Amy is at the front table with the other 3 board members, a man in his 60s who looks half asleep, a woman in yoga clothes scrolling her phone, and a younger guy in a polo shirt who keeps checking his watch. Amy has her label maker on the table in front of her. She also has a stack of printed photos. I recognize some of them: my survey stake, Dan's truck in my driveway, the post holes, the fence rails. She has printed everything and labeled them with little strips that say things like easement disturbance and unauthorized staging. The board president, the older man, calls the meeting to order. He reads through some routine business, budget updates, landscaping bids, pool maintenance. Then he gets to my case. He reads the violation notice out loud. Failure to provide advance notice of major exterior work. Unauthorized ground disturbance and restricted easement. Contractor vehicle violations. Interference with HOA enforcement actions. Recommended fine, $1,000. He looks at me. Do you have a response? I stand up. I walk to the front and hand him my folder. I also hand copies to the other board members. I start talking. I provided advance notice in April. Here is the email with the timestamp. I obtained a legal survey and a city permit. Here is the survey report and the signed inspection. The survey stake is on my property, not in any easement. The city code enforcement officer confirmed that. Here is her statement and the case number. My contractor's vehicle was legally parked in my private driveway during work hours. The tow attempt was unauthorized and the police intervened. Here is the police case number. I have complied with every rule. The only thing I have not done is submit to harassment. Amy interrupts. You failed to attend the pre-work consultation that is required under Section 12 of the Covenants. I look at her. There is no pre-work consultation requirement in the Covenants. I have read them. She holds up a binder. It is in the appendix. I ask to see the appendix. She does not hand it over. Instead, she opens it and reads from a page. All exterior work visible from the street or affecting shared infrastructure requires a consultation with the compliance officer at least 15 days prior to commencement. I ask when that rule was added. She does not answer. Jeff stands up. He walks to the front. Excuse me, but that rule is not in the original covenants. It was added by an internal memo in March of this year. The memo was never voted on by the full board and never distributed to homeowners. It is not enforceable. The room goes quiet. Amy stares at Jeff. The board president looks confused. Jeff hands him a printed email. This is the memo. It was sent by Amy to the management company with instructions to add it to the enforcement guidelines. It was never presented to the board for approval. The president reads the email. He looks at Amy. Is this true? Amy's face goes red. It is a procedural clarification, not a rule change. Jeff shakes his head. It is a rule change. And it is unenforceable. I take the opportunity to keep going. I pull out my timeline and hand it to the board. This document shows every interaction I have had with Miss Reed since May. It includes dates, times, email screenshots, and witness statements. It shows a pattern of selective enforcement, retaliatory actions, and harassment. I also filed a public records request with the management company and was denied access to hearing minutes and financial records. That denial was retaliatory and possibly illegal. I have filed a complaint with the State Real Estate Commission. Amy stands up. She is gripping the edge of the table. Her voice is loud. This conversation is not a debate. It is a directive. You violated the rules. You ignored warnings. You interfered with enforcement. The fine stands. I look at her. Then I pull out the last piece of paper in my folder. It is a printed screenshot of the HOA payment ledger that Jeff gave me. I slide it across the table to the board president. I let her get the last word, because I wanted the last consequence. The board president looks at the ledger. He frowns. What is this? I explain. This is a copy of the HOA payment ledger showing that Miss Reed has not paid her own dues in 6 months. She is in arrears by nearly $2,000. Under the covenants, any homeowner in arrears for more than 90 days is not in good standing and cannot hold a board position or participate in enforcement actions. The room explodes. Neighbors start talking over each other. The yoga clothes board member looks at Amy. Is this true? Amy does not answer. She is staring at the ledger like it is a bomb. Jeff stands up again. I can confirm that document. I pulled it from the financial records last month when I was reviewing the budget. Miss Reed has not made a payment since January. The board president looks at Amy. Amy, you need to address this. Amy sits down slowly. Her face is pale. She opens her mouth, then closes it. Finally, she says, I have been deferring payment due to a personal financial issue. I plan to catch up this quarter. The president shakes his head. That is not how it works. You are the treasurer. You are responsible for enforcing payment schedules. If you are in arrears, you should have recused yourself from the board and worked out a payment plan. Instead, You have been issuing fines and enforcement actions against other homeowners while you are out of compliance yourself. One of the neighbors in the audience, a woman in a fleece jacket, stands up. She is shaking. I paid a $300 fine last year for a mailbox that Amy said was the wrong color. I repainted it and she still made me pay. If she was not in good standing, was that fine even legal? The room erupts again. Other neighbors start shouting questions. The board president bangs a coffee mug on the table like a gavel. Everyone, please, we need to table this discussion and review the bylaws. This meeting is adjourned pending an internal audit. Amy grabs her label maker and her stack of photos and walks out. She does not look at anyone. The room is still buzzing. Jeff walks over to me and shakes my hand. You did it, man. That was perfect. I do not feel perfect. I feel exhausted. But I also feel something else. Relief. The board president approaches me as people are filing out. He hands me back my folder. I am sorry this got so out of hand. We will review your case and issue a formal response within 10 days. Based on what I have seen tonight, I do not think the fine is going to stand. I thank him and leave. The next morning, I get a call from Dan. He sounds excited. The tow company just called me. They reviewed the incident report and the police case number. They are refunding the full impound fee and voiding the tow attempt. They also said they are canceling their contract with the HOA because of the unauthorized tow situation. Apparently, Amy's email was not enough to authorize a tow under their policy, and they are worried about liability. I feel a grin spreading across my face. That is amazing. Dan laughs. Yeah, man. And they are sending a formal complaint to the HOA management company. This might actually blow up on her. 3 days later, I get an email from the HOA management company. The subject line is Resolution of Violation Notice. The email is short. After review, the board has determined that the violation notice issued on June 8th was based on incomplete information and procedural errors. The fine has been vacated. Your fence work is approved and compliant. We apologize for any inconvenience. There is no mention of Amy. But Jeff texts me that afternoon. Amy resigned from the board. They forced her out after the audit confirmed the arrears and found 2 other homeowners she hit with fines while she was out of compliance. The board is also changing the enforcement process so no single person can issue fines without a vote. I text back, good. About time. A week later, the fence is finished. It looks clean, straight, and solid. The posts are plumb, the rails are level, and the whole thing sits 18 inches inside my property line exactly where the survey said it should. I stand in my yard and stare at it. It is just a fence. But it feels like a victory. 2 weeks after the hearing, I am at the grocery store loading bags into my trunk when I hear a voice behind me. You think you won. I turn around. It is Amy. She is standing 10 feet away with a shopping cart. She looks smaller than I remember, tired. Her white jacket has a stain on the sleeve. I do not say anything. She steps closer. You embarrassed me in front of the entire neighborhood. You cost me my position. You ruined my reputation. I close my trunk. I did not ruin anything, Amy. You did that yourself. You targeted me because you could. You used your position to bully people and ignored the same rules you enforced on everyone else. That is on you. She opens her mouth to argue, but before she can say anything, another voice cuts in. Excuse me, are you Amy Reed? We both turn. A man in a suit is walking toward us. He is holding a folder. Amy's face goes pale. Who are you? He hands her a paper. I am a process server. You are being served with a formal complaint filed by the State Real Estate Commission regarding HOA transparency violations and retaliatory enforcement actions. You have 30 days to respond." He hands her the paper and walks away. Amy stares at the document. Her hands are shaking. She looks at me. "Did you do this?" I nod. "I filed a state procedure complaint that forces the HOA to respond. That complaint includes your records denial, your enforcement pattern, and your dues arrears. The state takes that seriously." She drops the paper. It flutters to the ground. She gets in her car and drives away without another word. I pick up the paper and glance at it. It is a real complaint. The state is investigating the HOA for selective enforcement, financial mismanagement, and violations of homeowner transparency rights. I fold the paper and put it in my truck. Then I finish loading my groceries and drive home. A month later, I get a letter from the Copper Canyon Estates Association. It is on official letterhead. The letter informs me that the board has conducted a full audit of enforcement actions from the past 2 years. Based on that audit, the board has identified multiple procedural violations and is issuing refunds to affected homeowners. I am not getting a refund because my fine was vacated, but 15 other homeowners are. The letter also announces a new enforcement policy. All fines must be approved by a majority vote of the board. All violation notices must include specific covenant citations, and all affected homeowners have the right to a hearing before any fine is assessed. The letter is signed by the new board president. Amy's name is not mentioned. Jeff calls me that night. "Did you see the letter?" I tell him I did. He laughs. "Man, you started a revolution. Half the neighborhood is talking about running for the board next election. People are actually reading the covenants now. I feel a weird sense of pride. I did not set out to change anything. I just wanted to build a fence without getting harassed. But somehow, pushing back against Amy broke something open. Other people saw that it was possible to fight and win. They stopped being afraid. The state complaint takes another 2 months to resolve. In the end, the HOA is fined $12,000 for transparency violations and ordered to implement new record-keeping and enforcement policies. Amy is personally fined $2,000 for retaliatory actions and barred from serving on any HOA board in the state for 5 years. The complaint also forces the HOA to stop selective enforcement after complaints pile up from other homeowners who were targeted. The management company is replaced. The new company sends a courtesy email to every homeowner with a summary of their rights and a copy of the updated enforcement policy. I keep the email. I also keep a copy of the police report, the survey, the permit, the timeline, and the final resolution letter. I put them all in a binder and label it HOA. Just in case. Dan finishes a patio job 2 blocks away and stops by to see the fence. He stands in my yard and nods. "Looks good, man. Solid work." I tell him thanks. He grins. "You know, after that whole tow thing, I have had 3 other people in this neighborhood call me for quotes. Word got around that I stuck it out even when that lady tried to shut me down. People respect that." I laugh. "Glad I could help your business." He slaps me on the shoulder. "Seriously, though, you did the right thing. Most people would have caved. You did not. That matters." Amy moves out of the neighborhood 4 months later. I hear about it from Jeff. He tells me she sold her house quietly and left without saying goodbye to anyone. No one knows where she went. The new owners are a young couple with a dog. They introduce themselves at the mailbox one afternoon and ask about the neighborhood. I tell them it is quiet now. They smile and say that sounds perfect. The fence holds up through the winter. No more letters. No more violations. No more Amy. I go to work, I come home, I live my life. It is boring in the best way. But I still think about that hearing sometimes. I think about the moment I slid that payment ledger across the table and watched Amy's face go pale. I think about her voice when she said, "This conversation is not a debate, it is a directive." She said that to me twice. Once in my yard, once at the hearing. Both times, she was wrong. Because in the end, I turned it into a debate. And I won. One night, I am sitting on my back porch with a beer, looking at the fence, when my phone buzzes. It is a text from Jeff. "Thought you would want to know. The board just voted to rename the compliance officer position. It is now called the community liaison, and they have to be elected, not appointed. No more dictators." I text back, "Good, that is how it should be." He sends back a thumbs-up emoji. I finish my beer and go inside. I have work in the morning. My shift starts at 6, and if I am late, someone else covers and I lose hours. But tonight, I am not worried. The fence is done. The HOA is fixed. Amy is gone. And I have a binder full of proof that I did everything right. Sometimes, doing everything right is enough. A year later, I am at a neighborhood barbecue. It is a sunny Saturday, and someone on the street organized a block party. There are grills, folding tables, kids running around, and a cooler full of drinks. I bring potato salad. Jeff brings his famous ribs. The new board president, a retired teacher named Linda, gives a short speech thanking everyone for coming and reminding us that the annual meeting is next month. No one boos. No one rolls their eyes. It is just a normal neighborhood gathering. I am standing by the grill talking to Dan, who is flipping burgers, when someone taps me on the shoulder. I turn around. It is the woman in the fleece jacket who stood up at the hearing, the one who paid the mailbox fine. She is holding a plate of cookies. "I just wanted to say thank you," she says, "for what you did last year. I never would have had the guts to stand up like that. But watching you do it made me realize I did not have to just take it. I filed a complaint with the board about my fine, and they refunded it. So thank you." I tell her she is welcome. She smiles and walks away. Jeff leans over. "You are a legend now, man." People still talk about that hearing. I laugh. I am not a legend. I just did not want to pay a bogus fine. He grins. "Well, you started something. The whole neighborhood is different now. People actually show up to meetings. They ask questions. They vote. It is like everyone woke up." I look around at the block party, at the neighbors talking and laughing, at the kids playing in the street. Maybe Jeff is right. Maybe pushing back against Amy did wake people up. Or maybe it just reminded them that they had power all along. Either way, it feels good. The annual meeting happens in August. It is in the clubhouse again, but this time the room is packed. Almost 50 homeowners show up. Linda runs the meeting with a printed agenda and a calm, no-nonsense tone. The board presents the budget, the landscaping plan, and the updated enforcement policy. People ask questions. The board answers. There is no drama. No one yells. No one gets labeled. It is boring. It is perfect. At the end of the meeting, Linda announces that the board is looking for volunteers to serve on a new transparency committee. The committee will review all enforcement actions and make sure they are applied evenly. Jeff volunteers. So do 3 other people. Linda thanks them and adjourns the meeting. People file out talking about the pool schedule and the fall cleanup day. I stay behind to help fold chairs. Linda walks over. "Thanks for sticking around." "I know last year was rough." I nod. "It was. But it worked out." She smiles. "It did. And honestly, I think we are a better neighborhood because of it." People are more engaged. They care about what happens here. That is because of you. I shake my head. It is because of everyone. People were ready for a change. I just gave them a reason to push for it. Linda pats me on the arm. Well, however it happened, I am glad it did. I finish folding the chairs and walk out to my truck. The clubhouse parking lot is empty now. The street lights are on, casting long shadows. I sit in my truck for a minute, looking at the clubhouse, thinking about everything that happened. The survey stake. The tow truck. The hearing. The payment ledger. Amy's face when I slid that document across the table. Her voice, I can put you on the agenda and keep you there. She tried. She really tried. But in the end, she put herself on the agenda. And she could not get off. I start the truck and drive home. My fence is still standing. My yard is quiet. My life is boring. And I would not change a thing. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.